Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of KaneSaid, and I'm your host, Kane Bradfield. Y'all know my slogan: the fame is free, but the grind costs, baby. Yo, I got my boy back in the house. How you doing, man?
What's going on, baby?
Man, let the people know who you are, baby.
Revere, everybody. Good to be back.
Yeah. Talk some talk, right? We back in this thing, man. So, JR, again, thank you for coming, big dog. You and I, we always talk about, it's an evolution of training, to where we at as a, I guess you can use
as an industry.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
where we at, man, and how important what we offer. And just how you say where we at, man. So let's dig into that, big dog. Let's dig into that, man. So again, for those, man, give them your background real quick. For those who don't know you, man, give them that.
Okay, well, just a little snippet for those out there who don't know me. I'm J.R. Revere. I grew up here in LaGrange. Went to LaGrange High School. Probably people remember me better as being John's boy.
Okay.
Coach Revere's son. He's the real star of the family.
I got you.
And so, in a lot of ways, kind of spearheaded him and a number of coaches, that coached in this community, spearheaded this whole training, this whole training genre here in this community. Because my dad coached a lot of some of the great names that you hear thrown around that historically, were the who's who of this town community. He coached, so just trying to carry on that legacy and in my own little way trying to give back.
Right, man. I dig that, man. I dig that. So, big homie, man. So again, you and I always talk about, man, just like what's popping right now. Like the game has changed.
It's changed.
So the game had changed, and I kind of feel like that this area is starting to understand the importance of what we offer to what this facility offer. I think it's starting to, some light is starting to get shed, man. Give me yours.
Okay, well, if you go back to the like beginning, and we always talk about, when we were coming up.
None
of this stuff existed.
Right.
All right, so you're going from a time, 30 years ago where, and what people around here generally used to is what I call the show up and show out kid. There's no rhyme or reason why this kid can do what he can do. It's just
he's doing it.
He's doing it, and we still have that. That still exists where a kid does, and I know this generation is a little bit more, stationary and they're a little bit more indoors, but there's still that component within that youth where kids are still going outside, still playing. So you'll still have kids show up and just have no rhyme or reason, no kind of training of why they can do what they can do. But
them genetics.
Yeah, they're just gifted.
Yeah.
And so they still exist. But now those kids are called raw.
Yeah.
That they have just those raw skills. And so what's happened is that usually when something evolves, it starts from a higher place, which in our industry is from the pro level.
Yeah.
So if you take what I specialize in, which is the quarterback development, that whole game got started with guys. One day, they realized that, there's this thing called the pro draft, and there's the pro draft prep. And so what if I did something that allowed me to get better at that tryout? What if I had somebody that could kind of walk me through exactly what I need to do, and I could perfect some things, so I get a personal trainer to help me out with that. Well, some guy, some kid, some parent thought, what if I was able to do that for college? So somebody got training to get ready to go to college. And then it went down to, what if I got ready to get ready for my varsity season? And now it's kind of evolved to where we are today, where you got kids trying to get ready for their youth programs, youth teams. And what it's done is that it's taken the place of what we used to get going outside.
Yeah.
It's taking the place of that. And that's where we've evolved to.
Yeah. So I agree with that, big homie. And to me, I was talking to a parent this past week, man. We was talking about, he was talking about his kid. He said, man, I think my kid got it. All that kind of stuff. He said, I'm wondering when should I, get into travel ball.
Right.
And my response to him was this: find this balance.
Right.
Find a balance. Travel ball is important.
Yeah.
I do think it's important.
Yeah.
But you better find a balance in developing your kid athletic ability.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because to me, man, I think, because again, man, now the going outside has changed, how we say it.
Right.
Now, people are still doing it,
Yeah.
right? How you say it, but going outside has changed. And this is the new going outside.
Yes.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Like, to come to guys like me who do
Right.
speed development
Right.
and teaching people how to run
Right.
to where you used to learn that in PE.
Yes.
You feel me? You used to learn that in PE, man.
Yeah.
But now, it's not that. For every reason, it's not that anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so, and I'm just a firm believer that if you fix those things, it make you a better ball player.
Right. We came from what I call the self-discovery age.
I'm with that.
So like, and I tell people, and I noticed this in training, and you probably noticed this in training, that if you remember the first time that you and your partner started lifting weights,
come on, man,
there were some guys that already could lift like some, man, that dude's pretty strong.
He's strong. Yeah.
To be an 8th grader, and I don't see that as much now, and I think that is indicative of what has transpired in terms of how youth society has gone, because we're kids are more indoors. They're not exposing themselves to the things like
climbing the trees,
which develops strength, riding a bike uphill,
jumping the fence,
those things. You're jumping the fence, or climbing up a tree. Well, how do you get down? You jump down, boom, plyometrics.
Right.
So these were things that we were kind of, Buddy runs faster than I do. Well, how does he run? Let me look at him, and then you try to mimic how he runs.
Yep.
Right, and you're self-discovering. Well, now you got somebody who has a higher understanding of body mechanics and how the body, physically how the body should conduct itself in order to run faster, what your body should do, how you should land. Instead of guessing or self-discovering, you got somebody that can kind of guide you in a much more educated manner. And that accelerates learning, that accelerates ability. So now you have kids at this age that might not be as strong, but they're a lot more skillful. And they understand how the body should move and so forth and so on. And so they end up getting that development in that manner. And so it's interesting.
No. I like that, man. And so also, Jay, what I like too, man, is the quicker, to me, quicker kids can understand their bodies, you know what I'm saying, the better their results going to be.
Yeah.
I feel that way because, like, even when I train my kids now for speed development or just correcting running, I want them to be in tune to their bodies. Right. I want you to be able to feel your hip moving. I want you to be able to feel your ankle locking. I want you to be able to feel your toes in the air. So I think, and I'm going to say something too, man, that's the difference, and I think it's why we are super important, and people who are in our industry. It's the difference between working out and training.
Training, yes.
So you with me on that?
Yeah.
It's a different, man, because that training will allow you to break those things down. Now, working out, you out there just working sweat.
Yeah.
And that's still good.
Right.
But you're not maximizing. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The opportunity, if you ask me.
Being able to provide a point of reference.
There we go.
Or this is the direction that you want to go. What's really interesting, and again, this is stuff that we talk about all the time, how a lot of the things that we're coaching and teaching and these kids are learning, we really didn't learn until we were like maybe in high school.
Come on, man.
Right?
Yeah.
And some of it, honestly, Kane, I didn't learn until I was in college.
Yeah.
Like, man, if I would have known this at 14 instead of at 21, like, man, how much better I would have been. So that alone elevates and evolves the sport. I think it evolves, society, especially our sports society as well. And that's why you see guys like, if you watch the NFL draft, most of those guys learned some things when they were probably about 14, 15 years old, and they perfected it. So by the time they go, you got linemen, D linemen, running 4.4s and 4.3, I think it's crazy.
Right.
But I mean,
which is itself.
But they perfected something instead of in maybe a 3-4 year time period.
Yeah.
Which we probably were, if you think about when we got to college on the college campus, how somebody really could teach me how to really come out of that 40 stance, as well as my coaches did in high school. This guy had a little bit of a higher level understanding of how to do that. So I had, a 3-year period, 4-year period to perfect it, whereas now these kids have, a 10-year period?
No, you got kids starting here. We started 7.
7, yeah. So it's like, I tell parents all the time, and, because we get kids that are, like, really young, and you teach them something and they just look awkward and they don't look, and the parents like, oh my God, I just, I don't think they'll be able to ever do it. And I'm like, no. they're not able to do that right now because they're not coordinated enough to do it.
Yes.
But they're hearing the information, and eventually, like anything else, like you learn to climb that tree or ride that bike, you figure it out. And now instead of figuring out at 21, you figure it out at 14, 15, 16 years old, and it makes you that much more competitive.
So Jay, let me ask you this, man. When you think about, training, right? And you think about, because, man, Dwayne Wade said something. Yeah. Man, he said when his son, of course he's not as great as his dad.
Right.
But he said his son is doing stuff that he was doing in the NBA, doing it at a young age, right?
Yeah.
So, man, give me your input on the direction of training, if it makes sense to you.
Okay. The direction of training, and this is a great point because we were talking about this.
Yeah.
So, I take football, for instance.
Okay.
All right, we already know that sport is evolving. Athletes are a lot more skillful at an earlier age, kind of like what you're saying with Dwayne's son. And it makes everything much more competitive. So the thing that I'm noticing, like going in terms of direction, I noticed that the metro areas, seem to have a better understanding of the resources of the training aspect of it and being willing to invest in it.
Yeah.
Whereas the more rural areas like a Troup County or, if you go to some, some of these other smaller communities, less metro, it's a little bit it's a little bit slow going of them understanding of, okay, things are evolving. This is not 1995. This ain't 1987.
Right.
The show up and show out age is over.
It's done.
It's done, right? So in order to be competitive, in order for you to be able to compete, because there's a difference between competing at a local level and competing at a state level.
Yes, sir. And
right now what's happening is if you take football, for instance, it's the Cobb County, Gwinnett County show. Especially if you get to those higher level classifications, 5A, 6A, 7A, that's who's playing for the state title.
Every year.
At one time, it was the other way around. And the reason why was, in terms of football, we were doing more football and we were getting more developed in football than those Cobb County, Gwinnett County schools. So if you got, below South Fulton, below the metro area, so if you got to Middle Georgia, so around LaGrange, as far out as Griffin, all the way down to Valdosta. That's where all the good football was. Because we were the only ones doing spring training. We were the only ones doing lifting year-round. They weren't doing that up there yet. Now they've caught on to that. And now, right now, if we got into a truck right now and just went up to Atlanta, somewhere in Atlanta to a facility, you would see it would be jam-packed with kids. And I'm talking about training in volleyball, football. I mean, you got a football quarterback, running back, receiver train. I mean, that are kind of narrowing it down and going, okay, this is how you need to do this precisely, which is going to elevate your skill set. So you're not only those kids are getting that, but they're also getting the quality coaching that we have here. Just to say, what I'm saying. So it's almost like what I try to tell, because to me it's like I tell folks all the time, the country of the town, the heart of the habit, right? right. We're not creatures of habits. We're monsters of habit. If this is the way we've always done it, and a town like LaGrange that's seen so much success and so many great teams and great players come through, it's naturally to think, well, why do we need to change anything? My cousin who was all state, he didn't have to do all that. Yeah, that was 1993, dog.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That was 99.
What was that is too though, man? So now what is going on? So watch how things are changing.
Right.
Okay, now I'm gonna talk in terms of transfer portal for a second. Watch this. Right. Now. Okay, the transfer portal has created a microwave behavior.
Right.
What I mean is coaches want to win now.
Now
they want the kids to
because
they want the kids who come in to play for them be ready right now.
Right.
So that's why I'm telling you, man, development is important because when you go to wherever you're going,
they ain't gonna teach nothing.
Because they want it right now.
Yeah.
Because it's all about X and O's now.
It's
all about X and O's now, man. So, and I think, I'm telling you, man, and it's going to get, I'm telling you, big dog, it's going to get even more demanding. You know what I'm saying? For a kid to be ready.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? For to be ready.
And that's the spiel that we try to give. Like as much, we talk to the coaches, at LaGrange, Callaway, Troup, Heard County, Harris County, all these county, and all these coaches in the surrounding counties that, most coaches, because I'm a coach's son, they old school and thought, this is the way we always done it. I can coach my kid, and we try to press upon them that, listen, we're not here to try to step on your toes. We're trying to elevate your program by elevating your player. We're able to work with them, because if a coach, if any of the coaches here in this community, if Gleason, if Napier, if Wiggins, if those guys were able and their staff was able to work with their players and just not focus on anything but just developing their players, then we'd be speaking in a different capacity.
Right.
But they can't.
Right.
Because because school, family, there's a lot that they got. So we try to tell those guys, and what I try to tell them is like, look, let us be the buffer. Let those moments or those things that you can't do because of time constraints and you coaching other sports. Let us fill in those gaps. And so now, when you get that kid back for instance, with football, he's ready to go. Now you can focus more on, like what you said, the X's and O's. And let's go plug and play ball.
Now that doesn't change what they're doing as far as strength and conditioning.
No.
They don't change. Cause see, the greatest thing about what we do here, Big Dog, is we play off what they do at their particular school. Like, for example, from a strength and conditioning standpoint, I don't do, in my programs, we don't do max out on benches. We don't do max out on squats because they're getting that there. You know what I'm saying? What we do is we do the auxiliary stuff. You know what I'm saying? We really focus on the explosive movements, the jumps, you know what I'm saying? Dealing with the ligament, dealing with the tendons, and dealing with the breakdown of a movement. You know what I'm saying? Some there, again, they don't really have time to really do it.
Don't, because you got what? If you're going a regular period, you got what, 50 minutes?
Come on, man.
And if you're going to block, that's better, you got an hour and 30, but still, you got how many kids? And you got what, 2 coaches in there? That's tough. I mean, it is tough. So you have to look at the bigger picture if you're in that capacity. And if you want to do anything else, and I guess a better way to say what we do and what you do is that we work more on specifying about functional movement, functional strength.
There we go.
Not necessarily the
I'm gonna root you up.
Not necessarily the absolute strength.
Absolute.
Was that what they work on? So it's a great partnership of, you do that, keep doing it. We're gonna do the little stuff that you might not have time to do. Like, for instance, how all the quarterback coaches you take in the surrounding area, how often can they work on rotator cuff strength? Right. Are you going to spend time? Do you have enough time to get out some rubber bands and But see, I do. I got plenty of time. I got at least, out of an hour and a half training, I got 30 minutes where we can spend on that, plus some other things. So it's trying to put people's minds at ease of, this is why we're here. No, we're not just trying to help one school. No, we're not just trying to help, we're trying to help and look at, in terms of the entire county, how we can elevate
sports.
Elevate the sport and elevate these individual youngsters or a generation, even if you want to go that far as a generational thing. But this wave of youth coming through, how we can make all the programs, high school, middle school, youth programs, how we can elevate that game. So now, because our objective is that we want our athletes to compete on a state level.
Yes, sir.
You want to be the baddest thing at Troop High, that's fine. But just understand, when you come to us, you're going to be able to do that as well as be thought of as being the best in the state, and be able to compete on that level consistently, so that now we can get back to where you got some teams from Middle Georgia, South Georgia, now competing for a state title pretty much every year.
So, Jay, let me ask you this, man. Let's talk a year breakdown. Follow me, right? So if a parent was to sit us down and be like, or sit you down and be like, Coach, I got a question to ask you. Man, I want my son to make sure he's developing every year, totally.
Right.
What do you recommend for him? What I mean by that, right? Travel, working out, all that stuff. Okay. Man, what would be your answer to that?
Okay, so the first thing you would have to do is explain to the parent that, all right, there are windows of trainability. And what we mean by that is, how old is he?
Yeah.
Depends on how that child's gonna be trained. So, between ages, 8 and 11, that window of trainability is roughly you're working on, a combination of a coordination, trying to get the kid to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what we call it.
Yeah.
Understanding the movement. This is how your body should move. Okay. The next window is probably from age 12 to like 18. That's where now you start incorporating the movement with now some strength behind it. Okay. That's where, we talked about, that's what we specialize in, is in creating functional strength.
Yes, sir.
Which there's a whole thing about that, but I don't know if we have time to talk about that. But just functional strength in terms of the power in which you move. That's what the best athletes are powerful in their movement. Maybe not necessarily powerful in moving.
For a bench press,
whatever.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to get them from there to there, they know how to generate the force in order to do that. That's what we specialize in. So, and then that third window of trainability is basically where you're trying to sustain. That's from ages like 19 to like 24, 25, where you're learning how to sustain that. And then from like that fourth window from like 28 on up is where you're basically going back and trying to retweak and reconfigure what you learned when you were, 8 to 11 years old of just coordination. Usually, and a great guy said this, usually by that time, because by the time you get to that age, that's a 20, 26, 20 year plus gap, the game has evolved to some new movement strategies.
Yep.
And so now you got to relearn some things again. I can attest that just from how now people are throwing the ball totally different than what I was coached and taught, 25 years ago. So that's the first thing that you have to explain, because most parents, what I experience is that you get a 10-year-old and we're in this internet world.
Yeah.
And usually when you go and see quarterback training on the internet, man, they're freaking cones and they're ladders and kids are trying to throw like Patrick Mahomes, and it's it's like, and that's what they expect. You're like, whoa, wait a minute, he ain't ready for that. Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, they didn't do that when they were that age.
Right.
What they did was they learned how to get into a stance, get into a good stance to start. They started with a fundamental base, and they learned how to move. And once they mastered that, then they started getting a little bit more creative and building off of that. So you would go through that, and then you would explain throughout a given year, there are 3 phases, right? There's the in season, there's the off season, and then there's the preseason, right? And the off season is the guts of your, that's where you build your foundation. The preseason is designed to get you ready to play. So everything and all the training there, if you come see our training, that's during the summertime for football. If you come and see us practice, we can do a good warm up, about 20 minutes, and then the rest of the training is just get after it. Everything we're doing is game simulated. And then the end season is now you're getting your training with your team. That's where you're getting the bulk of the volume of your work. So for 45 minutes to an hour, we're working now on maintenance, making sure our mechanics are still good and solid, making sure that we're decreasing the level of atrophy that happens throughout a season, especially in football, because it's so physical. And that we're keeping it, in other words, our mission and our goal is to make sure you're finishing stronger or just as strong as you started the season. And that's where we're going. So
I dig that. So watch this, big homie. So also, man, I always talk about, okay, and man, I want to stay with that off season, in season, preseason deal, right?
Yeah.
Now, baseball and basketball has almost a year-round sport for a lot of people.
Right.
Follow me now, right? But even that being said, man, so this is the message, man, that I try to teach the parents, right? Even though your kid played travel baseball, played travel basketball, that's still considered off-season.
Yes.
Now, you're training, like, so if you're trying to build a concrete training program, right? You have to base it off your high school.
Yes.
Okay, we're on the same page on this, right?
Yes.
So, like, for example, man, and so people always say, Kane, how do what I mean? How much should my kid play? How much should he train? And I always say this: you got to somehow try to create some type of balance.
Right.
First of all, you control how much your kid plays.
Yes.
You control that.
Yes.
First, you gotta understand that first.
Yes.
Right? So, okay, your end of season is your actual high school season.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, when the season's over with, okay, now you getting into your off season.
Yeah.
Okay, now, because some people play travel ball, that's in their off season.
Right.
But your training regimen has to be involved in that.
Then, yes.
So this is what I tell parents. Okay, first of all, get your training regimen. You know, so what come along that training regimen? One, your strength and conditioning.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Me, man, I call it performance training. Let me say that. Performance training, right? Then you got your, you know what I'm saying, your skill development, right? As what you do. Then you get your games. What I would do, you know, if I had a kid that was playing baseball, during that off-season time, man, I would figure out how can they get those days of training and get so many games in their off-season. But I would go back and use those games to determine how I'm going to do my skill development. You know what I'm saying? So if you're trying to build the ultimate athlete for that year program, you know what I'm saying, you got to build off that template, if you ask me.
And also, too, I think you have to, building off what you're saying, football, baseball, and I say a little bit of basketball, your high school, how well you do with your high school still matters. Now, I understand that volleyball and soccer are a little bit different. They're like, their kids not even messing with their high school team, and they're still getting offered like crazy because of their So that was a little bit more tricky. So you have to you have to figure out the nature of your sport. Okay, and again, you know, we're for the most part we deal with all sports, but the brunt of our clientele base is football, basketball, baseball, or I should say football, baseball, and basketball, in that order. And so you know your off season is dependent. You know what I say is it's dependent on when you're in season. Your in season is dependent on when what is your, if you want to get recruited. What time of the season is your best opportunity to get recruited? If that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
That's your end season.
Yes, sir.
Like, if in your sport, kids are getting recruited from their travel soccer or volleyball, well, you kind of using your high school, I hate to say this, but you're kind of using your high school as the off season. You know what I'm saying? That's but football is more, it's still, you went to that 7-on-7, you went to these camps, but whatever your team is doing, that's what we're going off of. Same with I know baseball still the same way, and I'm guessing football or basketball is still like that. Just from all the basketball coaches throughout the state that I talk to. But whatever you do, you got to know that part of it and understand that, so you have a plan of attack. And then you formulate a plan where, okay, this is what I'm doing during my off season. Here's how I'm attacking it. This is what I'm doing during my preseason. This is how I'm attacking it, and this is what I'm doing during my end season. This is how I'm attacking it. Because here's the thing: if you're just kind of going at this thing willy nilly and just playing games, just to be playing games, you're subjecting yourself to atrophy. Atrophy is going to lead to injury. So if you hurt, you ain't no good to anybody. So that's why I tell parents, and I always leave parents with this part, that for instance, and it's like really with baseball is the biggest one, even though basketball and football are starting to go this direction too. But you got to think, like in baseball, a Major League Baseball player probably, even if they go all the way to the World Series, all the way to their championship series, whatever league they're playing in, they play in 162 games in the regular season. If you go to the World Series or whatever, you're going to probably play another 100, that's probably almost 180, roughly 180, almost 200 games in the season. These are guys these are grown men who are at the highest level of levels, and yet their bodies break down. So why would you put a kid through something that's similar to that? When I hear kids are playing 300-400 games a year, I'm like, you got to have some time to recover. Physically, but more so mentally, because it becomes a crazy grind.
Yes, and that prevents the burnout. You know what I'm saying? That
prevents injury. But also burnout.
Yeah, most definitely. So, little big dog, and also, man, I want to discuss this too. Man, let's talk about, the importance of the investment. You know what I'm saying? One thing that people, I guess, fear. Is the investment. You know what I'm saying? Like I always tell people, it's almost like, you plant a seed, in your child development, in hopes of seeing that tree grow, that plant grow, for a scholarship.
And, and there's some parents that, I just want, they're not even thinking about scholarship.
Yeah.
And they just want their child just to be, be relevant in whatever. In other words, I don't want my child going out there and just get dusted off the track or off the court or off the field.
Right.
And that's all well and good, and we support that as well. But obviously, when we have, and I'd probably say if we did a breakdown percentage-wise, I would say at least 70% of our athletes, they trying to go to that next level. So now when we sit down and we talk and talk with our athletes, but more so our athletes' parents, we're like, all right, just like we said at the beginning of this conversation, here's the evolution and this is the direction it's going.
Yeah.
This is the way you got to attack this thing. There are no more show-ups and show-outs.
No.
You got to come and you have to be refined.
Yep.
These coaches are expecting you to have not just a level of training where you got from your coach at your prospective school, but there was somebody else behind the scenes that was working, because you really have it nailed in terms of your posture, your mechanics, your body movement, your stance and start.
Yes, sir.
This kid has been coached,
yes,
and he's been, and they feel safe. I can coach this kid, make my job a little bit easier. I'm more willing to offer that kid. Does that make sense?
A whole lot of it.
So we have to have that conversation. And in terms of getting to that point, there is a little bit of an investment. It is, and it's not just time, but it's also money.
Yeah.
Now, it's a running joke, and we talk about this all the time. I spend a lot of time in Metro Atlanta. I can name my price. And typically in metro areas, because there's more access to money and there's more, a little bit more fluidity of money.
Yeah.
For a lot of those folks, money's not an object.
Right.
But when you get into more rural areas, it's a little bit different. You deal with, there's smaller numbers.
Yeah.
Money's not circulating as much sometimes. And you deal with, there's a greater presence of poverty. It's you see it more because less people, you see things a little bit more. So even for the people that that I know personally in this town that grew up didn't have a dime, but now they through hard work they now got it. Now their kids are getting into sports, and now they realize they're having invested. Even somebody that grows up in that environment and now gets to a point in their life where they got it, they still have that that mentality of, oh man, I got to hold on to what I have, and kind of explain that. And all investing is, you want to invest with the attempt to get back.
Yes, sir.
More than what you invested, because and we talked about when we first sat down and decided what we were going to make our pay scale in terms of how much people would have to pay for our services. We kept that in mind.
Right.
That where we are and to help people and make it affordable.
Make it affordable. That's it.
What I do up in
it's
totally
Atlanta,
it's totally different when I come down here. And I understand that because I know my people.
Right.
I know my area, right? So we're going to make it affordable so that you can budget, so that you can, what I call get your bang for your buck.
Yeah.
And that's, I think at the end of the day, when we talk with the staff and we talk amongst each other, we want people to be able to say that about us. That, man, what they're requiring to invest is like not even close to what it's worth. Man, you get your bang for your buck. That's the conversation we want amongst parents. We want to give $1 million level training for something that you're not having to spend $1 million on, if that makes sense.
Whole lot of it.
That's what we want to express that to parents and let them know that it's here and that it's available. Because again, what I'm seeing amongst our community and communities like LaGrange, Troup County, and some of these places, that two things are going on. Either A, because of fear of investment, they're not taking the time to invest in what we're offering, or B, they just don't know to do it because that's not the way it was done before.
Yeah.
And so we got to tap into one of those two parts of, no, you got a resource, and this is the same resource that those dudes up in Metro Atlanta and all, that are signing all these crazy, these scholarships and going to these schools and performing like crazy. We're offering the same thing here. More importantly, you ain't got to spend as much as they spend.
You got to spend that.
It ain't near what there's the cheese, the bread they forking out. So
man, nowhere near, man. Because it's funny too, man. I've talked to a lot of trainers, you know what I'm saying, in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And we talk prices. They be like,
yeah.
what?
Yeah.
You do what?
That crazy.
What?
It is crazy.
Right. They be like, hold up. You charge how much down there?
Oh,
man. Like,
man,
no
that's
way.
a mortgage down here.
Right. Like, man,
Yeah.
like they charge some.
Yeah.
But again, man, it's a lot of stuff. It's different playing cards.
Yeah. It's
different playing cards, man.
Yeah.
And so, but we understand that though. You know, we understand that though. But at the same time, man, we want to make sure we're doing our part.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Really doing our part, man. So I dig that.
And we can't fake it. You know, we can't.
all.
You know, I'm not gonna sit here and insult people's intelligence. It's a business that we're running.
For sure.
And in order to have the facility, in order to get all the bells and whistles, you know, there's got to be an exchanging of
currency.
Of currency. You know, that's just business 101.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, we want to be mindful and respectful of, you know, understanding where we are, the area that we're in. And like I said, at the end of the day, what's the big picture? We want to give the parents and their children the opportunity to compete at a state level.
Yes, sir.
At a high level. And that requires a lot of insight and a little bit of extra time outside of what your coaches are giving that they just can't give a lot of.
Yep.
You know, they just don't have the time to give and to do the things that we're imparting and implementing with them, and like I said, that's our purpose. That we're here to be that facilitator and that bridge that gap.
Listen, y'all. Thank y'all for tuning in, man. We got some more coming, man. We're gonna do a series on this, man. We're gonna do a real life series. I want y'all to make sure you tune in every week to see what we got to offer, baby. You gonna leave them with something?
Get better.
Get better.
Get better.
Step them up, baby.